All right, so we are recording. So just letting you know too, if you do have any questions that you do want to ask, you can either put them in the chat window, which the chat is, if you go to those ... at the bottom and that says more, you can put your questions in there or anything that you'd like to share. So I'm going to share some strategies, some concepts, some ideas, some mentalities with you for about 40 minutes, and then go ahead and let you guys open up to do a Q&A for about 20 minutes. So, and then I have each of you on mute, so we can either unmute you, but again, you're being recorded, so if you want to stay non-vocalized, you can just put it in the chat. So, yes. All right. So first of all, I am Morgan Field. For those of you, I know the ones who are joining live that I can see your faces. I know each of you already know this. However, for those who've asked for the recording to be sent to them, I am the founder of the Epic Sexy You movement, which is in 18 countries and counting. I actually grew my business from complete scratch, from the ground up. I was in the corporate world for 8 years, being a total boss. I created, not only was I an award-winning sales and consulting executive, I also, so I was doing that in my prior career. I also was leading teams of salespeople. So my background in terms of being able to grow a business as an entrepreneur, or more appropriately, a soulpreneur, so someone who's running their business from their soul and from their heart and really honoring their soul's mission and leaving the imprint that I came here to lead. That's what a lot of these concepts are about. It's like, yes, you can apply these if you are in your career, but this is really for entrepreneurs, people who want to create and scale their business and scale their profits. But more importantly, it's because you want to do it to leave a really epic imprint on the world, right? You want to also do it in a way where you're not so much in hustle, but where you're in flow. And that's my jam, right? So that's what we're gonna be talking about today, which I'm really excited about. And just to give you some ideas too of ways that I have chosen to scale and grow my business. So one of the outlets that I utilized was creating a book. And when I did that, again, so 18 countries and counting, and it's a 6-time award-winning book, and it's also an Amazon bestseller. So when you use some of these strategies and techniques, this stuff works, you know. And sometimes our ninja mind, the version of our mind that likes to keep us small and assassinate our greatness, and that mind chatter that wants to basically make sure that you're not growing, because growing means you have to step into the unknown. That version of your mind may tell you that these ideas, concepts, mentalities that we're going to play with today, or strategies, yeah, you know, those are things where maybe that works for her, or, you know, I hear a lot of people say I'm an anomaly. And whenever I hear someone say that, what I basically know is that their ninja mind is telling them that somehow I'm different than them. I'm not. Well, we are all different. We all have different soul imprints. We all have different soul magic. At the same time, I'm giving you ways to actually extrapolate your soul magic and be able to put it into something that creates a lot of profit for you, and in a way that you actually get to enjoy being you. Because for me, how I define success is how much time you get to spend being you. So how much time you get to spend enjoying being you. And so when I was in the corporate world, I was making a ton of money, but I didn't love being me. So when I looked at it that way, I wasn't successful. So my hope for each of you is to not only be able to scale your business and scale your profits, it's to do it in a way where you really love life. You do it in a way where you're creating your heaven on earth. We can have it all. And so just knowing that there's that's what we're going to be playing with today. So one of the things that I learned, and when we talk about scaling a business, it's something that was a concept that came to me eventually, but it took me a couple of years to get there. So when I first left the corporate world, I was working with people one-on-one and doing coaching. So I'm a life coach, I'm an intuitive. So I was working with people one-on-one and helping transform lives like exponentially. I was watching people for the first time in their life look and feel sexy. I was watching people leave their corporate jobs and start these really profound, amazing, soul-fulfilling professions where they were making a lot of money. I watched people really step into portals of courage to create their own version of their heaven on earth. And one of the things I started to realize was, if I want to leave an imprint on the world as large as the one that I want to leave, I can't do that working with just people one-on-one. So I still do work with people one-on-one. It's just understanding I'm one person, right? So I'm a finite resource. if I look at it from a perspective of one-on-one, you're trading your time for money. And that's okay at the beginning. It's something that allowed me to build a foundation. At some point though, what I realized was in order for me to really be able to scale my business, I needed to start thinking in terms of what I call it 1 times infinity. And so for me, because as a coach, it looked a certain way. It was basically like I said, okay, what are all of the patterns that I see that are happening across the board with every single client I work with and with myself on my own growth journey? What are all of the patterns? And how could I create things that would allow people to consume it without me having to be physically present? So I knew I was going to have to be the creator of it. I could put all my juice and soul magic into something. But it was something, if I could create it once, it could live on forever, and it would allow me to touch the amount of lives that I wanted to touch, and it would create abundance for me. So it's thinking about, for each person it's a little bit different, right? Because I'm a coach, it was a natural thing for me to say, okay, and also I love writing. So a lot of times people come to me and they're like, okay, well, I feel like I should write a book. Okay, do you want to write a book? Because if not, then, it's like, and also if you feel like you should write a book, well, there are ghostwriter options. You don't have to write it yourself. So it's just thinking about asking yourself this question of, in your own business, and we all have different structures of business, but thinking about what could you create one time that lives on forever. And so for each person, it's going to be, you're going to have to get creative. Also, what I'm intuitively hearing also is sometimes we have this tendency or pattern as entrepreneurs to look at other people's templates. And I actually think I think in a way it's a disservice. I feel like what that does is it stops you from leveraging the power of your own divine imagination to think outside the box. So the reason I left the corporate world is I had a ceiling. I was making a lot of money, but there was a ceiling. I was capped. I want to fly. I don't like being in a box. I want to be able to expand my wings and just like really soar. And I want to go to the next stratosphere. So I knew that I wanted to create something that allowed me to have no ceiling. And so sometimes if you look at the industry around you, you're actually putting yourself in a box. So this question of 1 times infinity, it's really asking yourself, what would be really exciting for you to create too? I love writing. I sit down, I almost feel like I'm cheating in life because of how easy life can feel sometimes to me. Not to say I don't have bad days or I don't go through bumps. I mean, I wrote a book that shares with you all of my darkness. So, and I'll continue to have darkness. I've had more since the book. I embrace it because it allows me to grow. So the thing is though, is I really enjoy that process. I sit down and it's like channeling, and it comes right out of my fingertips onto, whether it's like, a lot of my book was written in the note section of my phone. I'd get an idea and I'd write it in the note section of my phone. And then I'd sit down in front of a computer and I would just dump it, from my fingertips. So it's understanding what are the ways that you could actually be aligned with your own excite and delight. Like your own version of what really would be exciting for you to create, that you could create one time and it lives on forever. So as an example, right, just to give you some ideas of some of the things I've done just to get your idea factory going, but then you're going to have to sit with this question on your own to really go internal for your own answers. So I wrote the book, I'll do, virtual workshops, I'll do live events, I'll do retreats, etc. Now here's what I wish I would have learned early on. So I'm going to give you a gift that pains me a little bit that I didn't learn this one sooner. So it's like but it's good because for other entrepreneurs and soulpreneurs, when I coach them, I'm able to give this lesson. Knowing what I know now, if I could go back, I would have recorded everything I did. And it's something I'm actually realizing in like the past week, more and more and more. Because I'm starting to sit down with this 1 times infinity to scale the business. And what's happening is I'm realizing I've already created so many things that were so profoundly impactful and magical that maybe it was an event I did for 20 people in the room, but I didn't record it. Maybe it was a retreat and there were 5 individuals present and it changed their life, but I didn't record it. So I was just working one-on-one. Essentially, I was working one-on-one still, even if it's one, sure, I'm working on groups, but this one times infinity is getting so creative that every single time you do something, you figure out how to make it live forever. And I really want to challenge people who are in different industries to think about how this could apply to you as well. And if you're hearing yourself say, yeah, but this doesn't apply to me, I would really like to challenge that. Maybe no one else in your industry is leveraging it yet, but we are in the day and age of consulting, educating, teaching, training people. So even if it's your own business and you're learning things through your own business, you could make extra income by capturing what you're learning and creating things that would allow other people in your industry to learn the same things you are without them having to go through it as well. So it's understanding that how do you create something, or like if you have an e-commerce business, or if you're doing some sort of product, if you have tangible products that you're selling and you do it's figuring out creative ways to, if you're doing you could even get creative in doing a live event that you live stream and you record, and it's actually bringing people into your grand opening, but it's recorded and then it stays on your site, right? So it's there are ways to do this. You just have to get really creative. And so I'm challenging, I know this because my ninja mind wants to tell me, yeah, no, that's a great idea. I'll record that next year. I'll record that next time. I'll incorporate, God, is it gold to learn this up front? And it's painful to look at all of the time that was invested in things that were so powerful and life-changing that I could have just recorded and shared with people. Now, also something just as a side note too, is if you're recording, that's why before I even hit record for this, I said, hey, I think I'm recording just my screen. But if I'm not, are you each okay with it? And so it's understand, and if not, then put it in the chat, because there are little things too along the way from just even a legal perspective to understand, is having that permission to have the recording. So again, it's all these things that it took so long for me to learn. So just knowing up front, when we did the Amazon bestseller party, and I knew I wanted to create something. I knew that I wanted to capture that moment. So I brought a video production team with me, and we put recording signs all over at the event. So when you walked in, you knew that it that was basically the liability in the release form. You walk in and you're going to be recorded. And so you're in a live recording space. So if you walk into that space, you're openly saying that you're walking into a recording. And I was able to take that event, and I brought in a photographer and I brought in the videographer to actually capture that moment and to tell a story. And also when I negotiated the video production team contract, I said, yes, I want you to create a video. I also want you to give me all of the footage. I want to own all of the footage. So I found a video production team where I owned all of the footage so that I could actually, I do the same thing whenever I'm contracting with a photographer for an event. I want all of the photos, right? Because I want to be able to, so it's just these little things, because I'm one times infinity. I understand that today who I am, I have an idea. 2 years from now, I'm going to have an idea that I could still use the information or the imagery or the videos or the pictures from the version of me that had an idea 2 years prior. And so every time you're spending budget, it's getting creative on ways to make sure that your budget is one times infinity as well. Versus if I just had a video production team, which I've seen as a lot of contracts, if I just had a video production team where it was they were building a video, if I ever wanted more of the footage from the event, I might have to pay for it. Or they might have ownership of some of the content. So this idea of, and I just challenge you to think one times infinity. How do I do something once? How do I pay for something once? How do I allow one thing to feed me on and on and on and on, and feed others. It's a win-win. On and on and on and on and on. So that's this one point that I feel like, because I was really sitting down and thinking about, for entrepreneurs, what are the things that I feel like will be the biggest game changers in their business? So that's one. The next one that comes up, and this one like kills me because I totally get lost in it as well. Every single entrepreneur I've ever worked with gets lost in it. People that are I have worked with some of the most powerful souls on the face of the planet. I have also noticed that as I escalate my vibration, the people that are called in, I'm like, my mind is blown on a constant basis. And even the most powerful people that I have ever come in contact with, I notice they do this as well. And it's understanding, I call it the RMs. I'm always asking myself, what really matters? Like, what really matters? What could I do that will actually impact? So if you want to scale your business and your profits, what really matters to do that? And here's what I see a lot. People tell me they want to make a lot of money in their business, whether it's, a solopreneurship, you're on your own, party of one, or whether it's, I've seen people in like businesses that run, hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a large organization. Doing what really matters. It's funny, I actually even just remember going back to like the corporate world and seeing people that had like, Fortune 500 organizations that I watched their executives doing what didn't really matter, right? It's like those feel like, so we all do it, right? It's this thing where your ninja mind convinces you that if you're learning, that really matters. And that's not true. Learning matters, but it's not what is really going to impact your bottom line. It's not really what's going to help you scale your business. It's not really what's going to allow you to increase your profits. It's a piece of the pie, but it's not what really matters. I'll give you examples in a second. So follow me here. Or stay with me here. So there are like these 3 pillars of productivity in business. One is learning, mastering your craft. It's important, but it's not the most important pillar, but it's a foundational piece of the pillar. The next one is doing tasks that are like essential tasks that you have to do, but typically, like you have to do taxes and expenses and, you have to do those things. You can delegate, which we'll talk about in a second, but you have to do those things. It's understanding that a lot of times what happens is we have something that we know that will really move us forward. And yet we convince ourselves, oh, I'm going to do this thing. So let me tell you what I see a lot in businesses is, so say a life coach. I work with a lot of life coaches. I am a life coach. So it's the one I know the most intimately, but where they'll tell me they need to get their business card and their website and the blah, blah, blah. And that those are the things that really matter. And it's like, no, you need to get clients. You need to invite clients. You need to find a way to get clients. Inviting people is the most important thing in life coaching. In sales, when I used to run sales teams or was in sales myself, you could convince yourself that the most important thing would be researching an account, researching an organization, reading their financial reports. But like the most important thing is actually picking up the phone, calling the contact who could actually buy from you and setting a meeting. What happens is our ninja mind, again, that version of us that wants to assassinate our greatness and keep us warm and fuzzy and under this comfort blanket, it starts to tell us that somehow we're not ready yet for that thing, so do this other thing first. It gets really smart. The smarter you become, the smarter your ninja mind becomes, and it morphs. It's basically like hanging out with a 4-year-old. Like they're brilliant and they know like, oh, it's like this game, like, oh, she's too smart for this now. Let me play with this. They're brilliant. They're amazing, right? And so it's understanding your ninja mind is doing the same thing. It is so genius that it knows that it can make you feel good. You get that little endorphin release if you think you're doing something that really matters, but it doesn't. So it's like, ooh, website. Yeah, let's work on our marketing. Yeah, let's do that. And really it's like, okay, well, what's actually going to make a difference in your business, right? So like as an example, I know Becky, you just did your website, right? And so it's like, as an e-commerce site, yes, you do need to have a website for people to buy things. It is important, right? So like acknowledging, yes, it is. And so the most important thing is to get that up and running. And then now it's inviting people, right? And so sometimes, yes, it is your website, so not to discount, but as a life coach, no, it's just, you have to get clients. You don't need, I had probably 10 clients before I had a website. And honestly, for probably the first 3 years of my business, I didn't even like my website, and I was embarrassed to hand people business cards, And so I was like, why don't we just get on a call instead and let's talk, So it's just so I was making a lot of money before I even had a website that I loved. It's also like the website, your brand is going to evolve as you evolve, even if it's an organization. So whatever it is that you have, it's going to shift and grow and change, and it's, and so you just need, it doesn't matter, right? But your ninja mind is going to convince you that somehow that really matters. That somehow your business card matters, somehow your marketing matters, right? It's like at some point, those may be things that are, so again, it's like those 3 pillars. You have your learning pillar, and then you have your task pillar, which I would actually consider your task pillar, those type of stuff. Your website, your business cards. The problem though is if you just had those 2 pillars, you don't actually have a profitable business that you can scale. You're building a foundation, but don't lie to yourself and tell yourself that you have a business. Because truly being an entrepreneur and having a business that you can create profits with and scale is having the courage to do what really matters. Let me give you an example. We were at a retreat. It was an entrepreneur retreat. It was I will definitely do this again because it's like one of my, I love working with entrepreneurs, especially light workers who are here to leave really large imprints. It's like, I'm here to create an army of light workers. It's one of my soul missions. I love it. And just working with people who want to leave an imprint of light and love on the world, transformation, etc. So I had entrepreneurs with me, and it was really cool because we were playing with this concept, and each person went and got to watch the other person's ninja mind convince them that something else was more important than what was actually important. So the reason I'm telling you that is when we got to one of the ladies who was in real estate investing, her ninja mind was so irritated when I was pushing on her and saying, okay, but what really matters? In real estate investment, what really matters? And she said she was absolutely convinced, her ninja mind had 1 million % certainty convinced her that what was the most important thing that she could do to scale her business and create profits for herself was making flyers. I say this because this is one of the most common things I see with entrepreneurs. We convince ourselves that we really oh man, if I just spent more time on my marketing. And so I'm seeing some giggles too, so that's good. It's understand, right? It's like our ninja mind is a jerk. It wants to keep you safe. Spirit wants you to expand. Spirit is for expansion and growth. It's going to challenge you. And I am guided as a conduit. I am a conduit for spirit. So anyone who works with me, you're going to get pushed. That's why some people don't want to work with me. I'm okay with that, right? And that's also why people do work with me and pay me a lot of money, because you will step into your greatness with 1,000,000% certainty. When spirit is running the ship, your intuition, the universe, call it whatever you want, you will be encouraged to step into your greatness. If your ninja mind is running the ship, it's going to convince you that the tasks, these busy work tasks, that those are the most important thing. And I see this the most where it's like, oh, I just need a new business card. I need new marketing. And I can already hear some mind chatter where it's like, well, then tell me what really matters. So we'll talk about that in a second. But so this woman, let's bring it back. So we're in Jamaica. We're having a great time. She's triggered as all can be because her ninja mind has convinced her that making flyers is the most important thing that she could do in order to scale her business and create profits. And our ninja mind actually makes it harder than it needs to be. Like your ninja mind wants you to work hard but not smart because it doesn't actually want you to create profits. And if it does, it wants you to think that it's a lot of work so that maybe you'll give up and go do something safer. Especially as entrepreneurs, it's like the amount of times my ninja mind still tells me like, you could go make so much money working at a corporate organization where you get benefits and you don't have to, it's like this lull. It wants to tell you all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, stop. What? But you have to be conscious that that's the mind that's chattering. It's just your ninja mind. So we're in Jamaica. This woman says, I don't think you understand how much work it is to make flyers. And I was like, oh girl, I do understand how much work it is. I'm trying to make your life easier so that you don't have to work so hard to get profits. What really matters? The really cool thing was one of the other ladies that was at the retreat was a very, very, very successful real estate investor. So like spirit knows what they're doing, right? So the woman who was going, it was her turn. She wasn't going to listen to me because nor should she. I mean, who cares? I'm not even in real estate investment. At the same time, I'm guided by spirit, but it's always interesting. Your ninja mind is going to convince you all of a sudden, I don't know what I'm talking about, even though it's not me, it's spirit, but that's okay. So I said, would you be open to hearing what the person who's very successful at real estate investment thinks is the most important thing that you could do that would maybe make your life easier, that if you just focused on doing that task, you could create a lot of money? And she said, sure. And the other woman was like, oh, you have to make offers. You have to find properties and make offers. If you want to be a realtor, that is the number one important thing. So same thing, if you're coaching, the number one important thing is inviting people to coach with you. You don't need a website to use your words. You don't need, you're at the grocery store. Someone talks to you like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a life coach, blah, blah, right? Like you start telling people what you do and you invite them. Same thing with an e-commerce site. Everywhere you go, you're a walking billboard. Own it, own who you are. Every business, right? It's like own who you are. There's that fear though that your ninja mind is like, but then what do? We don't have a website. We don't have this, I don't have any, or I don't like that website, or, it's like, then what really, you just have to figure out what really matters. Here's the other thing. We all have the same amount of time in a day. So why is it that some people just are rock stars? Why is it that some people are professional athletes or, making millions of dollars in their professions and others are not? We all have the same amount of time. And there's this really cool video that I saw. I think it was a commercial that Michael Jordan did where he said, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I made it look too easy. Because what you didn't see was all of the effort he was putting behind the scene. Now he's a basketball player, right? So what really mattered was playing basketball. When I was writing my book, what really mattered? Writing my book. When I was coaching, what really mattered? Coaching. That's the other thing too. Like I see a lot of coaches, well, I don't know how much to charge. It's like, great, then pick a number or just find someone to barter with. You just need that experience. You need to coach. So it's understanding that when we look at how we spend our time, it's getting really clear. And I've gotten away from this exercise. So as I'm hearing this guidance, it's like, I need to get back to doing this even more. But I feel like it's just like one of those things where I was giving myself permission for the first time in like 10 years to sit still for a couple months. And it's been magical, but now I'm feeling the itch to get back into even more creation. And I'm fortunate enough that I can stop and pause as I go and flow. So, really sitting down and asking yourself, if I was just to create 1 hour of like crazy courage, mass productive energy for myself that actually would move me forward and create momentum for today, what is that? Maybe it's sending an email to someone that you have in mind that you know would be a good fit to work with you, or would be a good contact for you, or would be a good affiliate partner for you, your own internal wisdom actually already knows what it is. I heard a quote once that said, "What would you do if you 10 times your courage?" And also what I see with a lot with entrepreneurs is sometimes then there's this battle. I experience this as well. So it's something that just being consciously aware of is that balance between exposure. So, marketing, inviting, etc., and creation and balancing. And sometimes what happens is this whole, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Should I create it first and then invite people, or should I invite people and then create it? It's just like, what if it doesn't matter? What if you just started doing versus waiting and debating and keep going back and forth? Just pick something and do it. Just pick something, and understanding your intuition. If you ask yourself every morning, what is one thing that I could do today that actually matters? So again, I always write down, what's my RM? What is it that I could do today that really matters? Understanding that you're framing it with, this is something that is going to be epically productive and guaranteed to move me forward. There's no, it might move you forward. With every percent certainty inside yourself that it will move you forward. As an example, Jen, you're awesome at this. And it takes a lot of courage to do this, but it's just like, I'm going to reach out to magazines and write for them. And then you get it. This is the other thing too. Yeah, it's crazy. This is the other thing too, is you will be surprised how easy this becomes. It's almost kind of shocking to the point where your ninja mind starts getting like, I don't understand what's happening. Because when you decide what you want and you commit to it and you're all in and you go for it, and you take the courage, you step in and you actually do that thing, you usually get it. And also it's understanding that if you're not getting it, then it's usually planting a seed, whether it is a seed for that thing or an energetic seed that signals to the universe, wow, she really is all in. Let's do this. He or she, because I know that there are a lot of guys watching the recording as well. Right? So it's understanding that you just have to know what it is that is going to move you forward. And if you're not sure what it is, I would actually really challenge you to just sit with it, because I feel like we all do actually know what is going to move us forward. That's why I can coach people of any industry, because I don't need to know your industry. I know how to help you figure out for yourself what your intuition is telling you and guiding you to do. That's my specialty. So I don't need to know your industry. I don't need to know the ins and outs. And in fact, what I have actually seen a lot is, because I don't know some of the people I work with, because I don't know their industries, I'm not in your box with you. I'm not in your little template that you think of what's possible. One of my soul gifts is that I see possibilities beyond a spectrum of reality that most people think I'm crazy. I'm flattered by that. I used to be really triggered by that. I used to be very I used to think that I was told a lot when I was younger, I have a wild imagination. I was put into acting when I was little. No, it's a soul gift. I can see possibilities beyond what anyone else could see. When I was leaving the corporate world, I knew what I was creating. I also know what I'm creating now. And I have to really pull myself back down and ground myself and anchor myself and just say, okay, one thing. Because then I'll pump it out. That's how I got the book done. I wrote the book in 5 weeks. Because I decided I was going to do it. I committed to it and I was all in. Editing took longer, right? And then you have the design and. But so that's the other thing I would really ask you is to figure out not only what matters, but what's it going to take to be all in. And, we've, for some of you ladies here that are on the call, you've done, a lot of this work with me. So a lot of this is the repetition, but our mind needs that repetition to break that old pattern, right? It's asking ourselves, the version of me that is already where I want to be, that has already scaled their business to where I want to take it and has already created the amount of profits that I want to create, what did that version of me do? And what's really funny is I almost feel like, not almost, this happens. Like future me comes to me, because I always ask myself, what would future me do? Future me comes to me and shows me exactly what I created and how I created it. You don't need to know the how, but mine shows me the how. And then current me is like, yeah, where do you start? And it's like, it doesn't matter. You just have to start somewhere. And so it's the indecision that creates lack of profits and scaling. And it's also the mindset. We're so used to trading our time for money that we're not thinking like, hold on a second, I'm one person. How can I be 1 million people? How can I work with 1 million people? And if that's too big of a thought for you, then it's how can I work with 10 people? And then it's how can I work with 40 people? And then it's how can I work with 100? Because I guarantee you'll figure out a way. One final thing to share with you, and then I'll open up to questions, is there are different schools of thought when it comes to scaling your business. And it doesn't necessarily mean one's right or wrong. It's just energetically, I have felt always very perplexed by the hustle energy. Like, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to get at it. Da, da, da. I know I trigger a lot of people because my life, I have too much time on my hands often. Like, I'm laying by my pool. I'm going a little stir crazy. I've created this amazing life that I love, that I have all of this abundance. I'm manifesting, epic love and friendships and connections. I have all these amazing things that are happening. And then I just find myself, being like, I've got too much time on my hands. What am I going to do with it? And it triggers the shit out of people who are making less money than me, who are hustling their ass off. And the reason is because I decided this is the type of life I want. I decided that I wanted to be able to create a life where, sure, I will always put in work and effort, but I wanted it to feel in flow. So like I worked my ass off, but I never really felt like even writing. It's like, but I love writing. I chose things that I love doing. So one of the ways that I watched someone who is incredibly wealthy, so successful, but doesn't sleep much. And their business, like they don't sleep much. I watched them get on red eyes and sleep on a red eye to go and like fly in to New York and do, TV shows and then fly back 5 minutes after the segment ends. And that like boom, boom, boom. And because what their business model is they were trying to figure out how to bring as many new people into their network as possible because they had one thing they were selling. And that's just what worked for that individual. But what I noticed in working with them side by side was like, oh man, you have hundreds of thousands of people in your network that want growth. They want transformation. And yet your focus, instead of focusing on what you already have created and giving yourself permission to relax, to pause, to indulge, to figure out what else these people might need that you could service them. The game plan was always, one laser focused on, I've got this one thing and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to hit it hard. And I just watched the burnout over and over and over again. And so, whereas when you think about looking at it from a perspective of how do you want your journey to feel? And then again, looking at it from a perspective of this 1 times infinity, looking at it from a perspective of how do I allow myself to, maybe instead of me having to go, like how do I service in an even deeper way the population of people that I already have access to? So that'll apply to some businesses. It won't necessarily apply to all businesses, but just thinking about what are the additional ways. Actually, I'm hearing it applies to everyone. So it's like, what are the additional ways that you could actually support and service the people that you've already interacted with? And, Tony Robbins always talks about like creating raving fans. So understanding that it's not always about the number of people that you're going after if you just have one thing, it's like maybe you could create some other things. So it's just always looking at what are our patterns that might actually be getting in our way And then how do we give ourselves permission to sort of, shift? The other thing too about recording. So you've got the one times infinity. So making yourself be like taking yourself over and over and over and over and over again, different places, but you only had to do it once. Focusing on what really matters, recording everything. The other thing too is when you record things, you can actually ask people for feedback. You can send it to them. I've done this and it's painful, but awesome. You could also watch it yourself. So you get to start growing by watching yourself. It's something that when I was a competitive gymnast, I wish we would have had back then, but we didn't, right? It was like, my God, if I had had video to actually see myself instead of having to listen to someone else mirroring it back or had to feel it in my body, how much more, like when I do trapeze now, and I get to see the videos, I get to see, oh, my hand's off alignment. That's why I'm not getting the catch. So we like leverage that. We get to see if we record something, we actually get to see what's happening. And then the final piece too is this thing around delegating. You cannot scale your business. This is something, I've got the do it all girl avatar. You cannot scale your business and increase your profits to like, you're going to have a ceiling if it's just you. So it's understanding, this question of, how can you get where you want to go as fast and as easy as possible and in flow, and who can help you get there? And sometimes that's people that you already know, like direct contacts, or sometimes it's like, wow, I really need a video editor. I really need a web designer. I really need, like, what are the things you love doing that will actually create profits that only you can do? And then what are the things that could help you create more money, but that you would have to invest some money to delegate those in order to get that, the time back. So I'm happy to open up to questions, whether you would like to have me unmute, or you can probably unmute yourself. Okay, good. All right, so the first question is, when I'm in a state of flow, I get a ton of ideas that give me goosebumps. How do I choose which ones to act on now? So, okay, so this is very common for a visionary, because a visionary, you actually see all of the things that you're going to do. So my guess is that you'll have, at some point, all of those things in some way, shape, form, or fashion will come into play with you. I actually would ask you to ask your state of flow that question. That's the thing. Like, I coach people, and I know that you know this, right? But I coach people to coach themselves. I coach you to own your own power. Because the thing is that you know the answer to this if you gave yourself permission to know the answer. We're just trained from such a young age that other people have the answers and we don't. And that's not true. Right? So how you decide which ones to act on is you ask yourself, in this moment, what do I feel like would be the most powerful thing that I could do? And you'll feel it in, everyone has a different sentient energy center where you feel it in your body. And I just felt it in like my gut area, so just understanding, just knowing sometimes it's my heart area that I feel it in, but those are typically the two centers that I can feel. If you're getting headaches or your head's hurting, you're spending a lot of time in your head. And so when entrepreneurs tell me like, I'm getting a headache, and I'm like, bet you are. Okay, so then the follow-up question to this is, your guidance says, why does it have to be just one? And exactly, right? So like, you can do multiple things. It's just, this is where that battle is happening, is you do have to pick something in that moment. And then in the next moment, 5 minutes later, you can pick something else. But you have to pick something in that moment and do that thing in that moment, or else you're never going to be a finisher. This is something that is so, so, so powerful in entrepreneurship that, again, like a lot of people don't really talk about, and I experience this as well. It's the ninja mind will send you in 20 different directions, or will send you in a direction and you start that direction, and then you're like, maybe this isn't working, and you give up, and then you go into another direction, and and then you never actually finish anything. So you do have to, the reality of the situation is, and you know this about me personally, I know we can have it all with 1,000,000% certainty. It's that, and we also need to make sure that we are giving ourselves permission to do one thing in that moment at a time. So full dedication of time, focus, energy is absolutely critical and essential if you want to scale your business and create profits. It's kind of like, relationships. If I'm trying to have if we're out to dinner and you're on your phone and you're convincing me like, nope, I'm totally paying attention to you, I'm fully present. No, that's not true. You're not. And yet your ninja mind can tell you that you are. It's the same thing in your business. And I'll tell you too, like if someone is with me and they're in a space and place where they're not fully present with me, it's going to impact the relationship. And it's the same thing with your relationship with yourself and your business. If you're running in circles, you're not going to have the confidence to trust yourself that you can actually create the type of business that you want and the type of life that you want. Okay, did I answer your questions? Okay, awesome. All right, so next question. I have been able to manifest and make a lot of things happen, but one part I'm stuck with is I want to scale up and I need to urgently, but financing for the staff is the main issue. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about tell me a little bit about the urgency, the urgently. Tell me about that. There's some heaviness on that. So just type in tell me a little bit more about that. Oh, okay, that is the urgency. Okay, the first 2 years. So what's being typed is I have been running the business for 4 years. The first 2 years was okay. I'm waiting to see if there's more coming through. But the last year it went really bad and ended up. Okay. So this is actually really common. Okay, so I'm going to start reading. There's still some typing happening, but I'm going to start reading and feel what's coming up. So again, there's always energetic juice. It's one of the things I'm able to read with people, which is also why I love working with entrepreneurs, because it's like, especially light workers, like, you know what you want to create, where you have ideas, you get a lot of visions, but you don't necessarily know how, or if you do know how, it's typically there's resistance because it's so close to your soul's fulfillment. It's like that Stephen Pressfield quote. It's one of my favorites, which is, the closer you are to your soul's fulfillment, the more resistance you'll face. And so we face resistance, or we create resistance for ourselves to make it harder. And then we're not able to, fulfill our own prophecy. So let me read this, because what I'm feeling is a lot of resistance that's coming in. And so this is actually really, really common. So it says, I've been able to manifest and make a lot of things happen, but one part that I'm stuck with is I want to scale up and I need to urgently, but financing for the staff is the main issue. I've been running the business for 4 years. The first 2 years was okay, but last year it went really badly and ended up on people's couches, etc. This year is going very well, but I feel that by now I should be employing people. The first person I employed in the first year went horribly wrong, and they blackmailed one of my clients to extort money. So I could feel that there was an energy stickness on urgency. And I'm also hearing now in the linguistics that there's a lot of what I'm hearing is that you're actually, this question and your business strategy is coming from your head. It's coming from survival. It's coming from should. I don't I'm not feeling, so this is just a mirror back and maybe sitting with this and kind of feeling what comes up and reaching out to me later and letting me know as a follow-up what came up from what I'm about to say is what I'm feeling from you as you're saying this is a lot of fear, and it's understandable. Sometimes we have like post-traumatic stress points as entrepreneurs, or even in creating, relationships. We have a tendency to remember, if it's love, we remember someone that hurt us. If it's business, we remember, a business thing that we tried something one time and we got burned by it. And so all of a sudden our ninja mind is like, oh yes, I know what to tell them. I'm going to keep bringing back that one point of pain. I'm going to keep bringing back that one time. I was coaching someone once and they kept telling me that they weren't pretty and she was beautiful and I couldn't understand it. And I stopped and I said, who told you you weren't beautiful when you were younger? And she said, oh, well, there was this one kid in 3rd grade who said blah, 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 and I was just like, oh man, you were letting I was like, has anyone else ever said that to you? And she was like, no. One moment. And this is so common. I say this in jest and also in love is we have things that happen one time and we don't even realize that it's a script that our ninja mind was like, this will keep her safe. This will keep her in her comfort zone. Your comfort zone is not where your profits exist. They don't. So if you want comfort and survival and you want thrival, it's not going to happen. Okay, so I'm getting some validation. The message that just came through is, I think you're spot on. So do you also see how just giving ourselves permission to be radically honest with ourselves and actually labeling it? So I have this practice that I do. Okay. Yeah. So the spot on, the feedback I'm getting is the spot on is that it's this should, right? There's a resonating with you think you should be doing something versus what are you actually being guided to do, right? And should is fear. Also the pain of previous experience is what's being validated here. Like, oh yes, I'm allowing this experience to trigger me. So let's talk about something, because this is actually really, really huge and I haven't talked about this. And so I think this is actually, wow. Thank you for bringing this up. This is huge. So those moments of the points of pain in your business, your trauma points, when you harvest those and you actually create ways to protect safety for yourself in your business, are some of the most unbelievably profitable experiences you will ever have in your entire business. So let me give you an example. I have had a few moments in time where that have been really painful in business. Where I realized that how I would like to run things, like, yeah, verbal agreements totally are fine. And I'm not really big on, lawyers and having, contracts and blah, 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 it got to a point where it was not serving me anymore. And actually I didn't realize that it wasn't creating safety for me or for some of the individuals I was working with. And so what I have decided to do this year, this is the year of foundation for me. I sat down and I harvested every single moment of pain that I have felt in my business over the course of the past 5 or 6 years. I literally sat down and was like, okay, what was it that was painful? Or what was it that I had to eat a lot of humble pie? Or what was it that I lost money on? What are the patterns? What are the things that the people in my community are doing that is not serving them? What are the things that I'm doing that's not serving them or myself? I sat down, and this takes so much radical honesty with yourself, and also knowing that it's grace. You are learning with grace. You are just giving yourself permission to grow. That experience happened for you, and yet you're acting as if it happened to you. And so it's like, what is it about that experience that was a gift? What is it about that experience that allows you to become an even more powerful businesswoman or businessman for, for everyone watching, right? It's like, what allows you to become more powerful in business? One of the things I see is we're really good at our trades. Well, I see two things. I see people that come on board for business and they're really great at business, but they're not great at the creation process. Or I've seen people who are really great at creation and they're not good at the business process. If you want to run a business, you need to learn both. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to learn both sides. Now, can you outsource and delegate some things? Sure, but you bet your ass you better understand what you're outsourcing. I outsourced bookkeeping at one point early on and I didn't understand it. And I kept trying to get to understand. We had like a $12,000 difference on something. And it came down to, it was just an error in communication. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to pull it back in-house. I'm going to understand it. And then I'm going to outsource it. That's not necessarily for everyone, but that's just how I operate. At the end of the day, you're running a business. And so you need to understand, you can go back to that experience as an example and you could say, what could I put in place moving forward that would allow me to prevent that from happening next time? If the answer is, I don't know, I would actually challenge you a little bit. And I know I'm pushing a little bit here, but I would challenge you that your victima or victimo avatar is the one running the ship. I don't know why it happened to me. What happened for you? Why did it happen for you? What can you learn from that? What can you harvest? And also I would challenge, I don't understand, nothing about what you're saying or the energy I'm picking up would lead me to believe that you should hire people. I don't see where that's coming from. So, I think that also comes down to the template. We sometimes look at other people running their business externally that are in the same industry as us and, oh, they're doing that, then I should probably do that. I had a designer tell me once I shouldn't do something because no one else in the industry was doing it. And I was like, I appreciate what you're saying. I respectfully don't give a shit. Okay, so the other thing that's coming in is this piece that's in the chat here. I did learn a lot, especially about managing people, even if you know them and trust them well. Yeah, it's understanding you did learn from that. I'm also hearing, I don't know why, but I keep hearing intuitively for you specifically, this will be relevant for others as well. We can create safety for ourselves in really high vibrational, powerful ways. And right now you're creating safety for yourself in a low vibration way, which is like, I'm not going to hire anyone. That's my safety. Well, it's safe, but it's not helping you grow your business. So what is a way that you could grow your business and be safe? And there's a way that you can do both. And I think that's something that we should all consider as entrepreneurs. It's something that I was like, I'm spirit guided. I don't need to be safe. I'm safe, And then it was like, things kept happening and I was like, okay, I need to create some, even just things like I'm working on processes where I'm creating priming agreements so that when someone comes to a retreat, we have upfront agreement about what to expect. So the other thing that's coming through here with this particular question is I need to hire because I'm tired of the projects. So, oh, you're tied to the projects. So you do need to hire. Again, I'm just going to mirror back. I feel a lot of anxiety. Like I have to, I shouldn't, I don't have to, but, and like you haven't actually made a decision one way or the other. And so it feels like anxiety doesn't serve us. That's easier said than done. But I'm getting like my throat chakra is closing up. So there are some things that you need to be saying. This is something that actually is more of like a coaching piece versus just a question, because it's going to be really specific to what is going on with you. Because there's a lot tangled up in that. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we're up on time, but if anyone else has questions, I'm happy to stay on for a couple extra minutes and answer any questions if you want to leave them in the chat. if not, we can peace out. But yes, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes. All right. So I'm just getting some love. So thank you. Yes. I'll be doing some more of this stuff. I've been really pulled to, I love entrepreneurship. Everything that I've learned in my corporate experience has allowed me to create a really, really powerful business. And then tapping into my soul gifts has allowed me to create a really powerful business from the ground up. And it excites and delights the shit out of me when I help other people step into their own dream creation and create a lot of money doing it and scale. So, so stay tuned for more of this. And I'm also writing a little piece that I'll send to everyone as well. Just like a little ebook that'll help you just play with some concepts and ideas. I would encourage you as you read that, that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, but as you read that, I would encourage you to just pick one thing to play with at a time. You know, like maybe for you, it's like, man, I just every day need to be focusing on what really matters. That's going to be my one thing. Or it's like, man, I need to start focusing on, you know, for about 3 weeks, I just asked myself every morning, and I had an accountability buddy who messaged me every morning, and we would ask like every morning, the question I was asked myself and that they asked me was, what can you delegate today so that you can have more time for loving being you? Right? Because it's like how you create, you know, I want to scale my business and be profitable in a way that I love being me. Because if not, then I could have just stayed in the corporate world. Right? Because like I was making a lot of money. I enjoyed life-ish. Right? But I wanted, you know, so you have to also know what you want and why you want it. So that's actually the other thing I would recommend really thinking about is, why are you doing what you're doing? That's something I have to constantly go back to. When I'm not inspired or when I feel like I should be doing something or I'm pushing myself, I'm like, whoa. So that's the other question I would say, you know, to go back. If you feel like you should be hiring people, if you feel like you should be doing things, if you feel like you're tied to projects, it's taking a step back and going, hold on a second, why did I do this in the first place? If it's just a paycheck, you could be getting a paycheck doing something else. Why are you doing this? This specifically, why are you doing it? And it's interesting language to say that you're tied to something. So just mirroring back, right? It's like a lot of getting tangled up in shoulds versus desires. So awesome. It was amazing connecting. I'm excited. I love for the ladies and who have their videos on, and for the ladies and gentlemen who are watching the recording. Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, because I feel like whatever the pieces that are like common questions that I get over and over again, I'm going to start covering. So feel free to, so email me. So, and anyone who wants to work with me one-on-one, feel free to reach out and we can explore that. So my email is morgan@epicsexyu.com, which is morgan@epicsexyu.com, which is 2 Y's, epicsexyu.com. And then I love connecting on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm on Facebook at either epicsexyu or Morgan Field. I think my Morgan Field page is like official Morgan Field, because it's official. And but if you look under Morgan Field, you'll find me. And then on Instagram at epicsexyu. So awesome. YouTube also. So anyways, epicsexyu. All right. Awesome seeing you, peoples and beautiful faces, and catch you soon. Bye.